This might be a hot take, but I think Gen Z is the most productive generation there ever has been. Parents always say that we, Gen Z, are lazy, always on our phones, and also just don't really do anything with our lives, and I actually agree to an extent. But I still think that Gen Z is kind of the best generation there has been, and I'll tell you 3 reasons why I think that right now. Of course, I might be a little biased since I'm Gen Z, but I do have 3 reasons why I genuinely think that. The first reason why I think that Gen Z is the most productive generation there has been is that even though there are more addictions than ever, our generation is the first generation that has made the path of self-improvement really popular. This movement of self-improvement is so popular, in fact, that millions of teenagers are kind of on self-improvement nowadays. The movement of self-improvement is basically that you have to go to the gym, improve your relationships, make a lot of money, get rid of addictions, whatever, all of these good habits, It basically focuses on improving all of the areas in your life. But if you can't tell, I'm on self-improvement too. I've been working out for over 4 years now. I've been trying to meditate, trying to read books. Recently I've been reading a lot of books, And also I've been trying to improve my relationships with people and trying to make a little bit of money. I've just been trying to improve all of the areas in my life, and I've been noticing that Gen Z has also been trying to do the same, or even just a pretty big percentage of Gen Z has been trying to improve their lives. But the most important self-improvement habit for me is going to the gym, and it has always been going to the gym. This activity of working out, trying calisthenics, going to the gym has basically changed my life forever. And I've also seen that most of the people that are trying to improve their lives in Gen Z have also been going to the gym, and this is basically the habit that has changed the whole of Gen Z. But with the generations before, I haven't really seen that. Like, my dad has never consistently went to the gym, but me and my little brother have been going to the gym for years now. And so this is basically the thing that has changed Gen Z as a whole, that everybody has just been going to the gym. The second reason why I think that Gen Z is the most productive generation there has been is just that other generations underestimate how many bad habits they did and how many bad addictions there were in their generations. Of course, this might have been because, they were just misinformed. However, that is also an actual reason. For example, one day when I went to class, I think it was like biology class or something, and the teacher was basically talking about all of the healthy things you can do to improve your health, And so she was talking about some things, and she mentioned the fact that like 20 years ago, people thought that smoking was actually healthy. Like, the doctors recommended smoking, and when you had some kind of problem with your health, or you had a disease or whatever, then they would just give you a cigarette. They thought it to be healthy. However, it is in fact not healthy. So people were just smoking all of the time without realizing it's not healthy, and it's actually really bad for you. But there are other problems in the generation of millennials, as well. For example, drunk driving laws weren't that strict, so you could just drunk drive and not get caught. People didn't know that junk food is bad for you, and also drugs were used much more often, and there were many problems. However, earlier generations nowadays don't really recognize that they had those problems, so they say that Gen Z is really unproductive and really lazy and also misinformed, whatever, and we have all of those problems. However, they had a lot of problems. They were all misinformed about many things, so that is one of the things why I think Gen Z is actually much more productive than other generations. The third reason why I think that my generation is the most productive generation there is just because how many opportunities my generation has, and also how ambitious my generation is. For example, with the rise of the internet, my generation has started to realize how easily you can make money on the internet. You don't have to go down that normal path anymore. You don't have to get an education if you want to start a business, for example, so you can just make money online. There are countless business models you can choose from. You can do drop shipping, becoming a YouTuber, you can trade, whatever you want to do, whatever you're passionate about, and so you can just do that. You don't have to go down that normal 9-to-5 path again. My generation has started to realize in general that educational system is pretty much bullshit if you don't want to become an engineer or if you don't want to become a doctor, like this is basically useless to go down that path if you don't want to become like a certain profession, like a lawyer or whatever that requires a special degree. I don't really want to rant, but I think that the educational system is just as inefficient as it could be. Like for example, the school start times, are just too early for teenagers or Gen Z like me. And so we're just always sleep deprived, and in the mornings our brains aren't working as hard as they could be, so you know we're always falling asleep in the middle of class. The learning you do is also very stretched out in my opinion. For example, the thing that takes you about 3 years to learn in school, I personally think that if you used all your brain power every time you try to learn, that it could take you under a year to learn that same thing, because the lessons are just so long in school, and also we're not even using our full brain power. We're using like a third of our brain power, so it's just really inefficient. And also in many cases the information we're learning in school is just really outdated, you know. ChatGPT could do many of the things that we're learning in school. I know that the basic fundamentals are kind of necessary, that you have to learn some things. However, when you get older, you realize that most of the things you kind of learn are for certain professions, that you don't really need this, and you will forget that during your life, during your, older years. But still, even though this information that I just told you is more public than ever, like most people know that, at least most of Gen Z knows that the educational system is pretty much bullshit. If you don't want to go for that certain job, if you don't want to be like a lawyer or a doctor or something, if you just want to be an entrepreneur or make a business, then it's pretty much bullshit, you know. So even though like most of Gen Z knows this, older generation still don't realize this. So parents say that you have to go to uni or you'll never be successful in your life. So, they expect you to go to university. However, that is absolutely not necessary in this modern world. I hope you enjoyed this little rant that I just went on, and I hope you got something out of it. So yeah, I believe in you, bro. See you in the next one.